So the time has finally come to talk about Pixar. Pixar, if you somehow don't know, is a studio that has made some of the greatest animated movies and some of the greatest movies of all time. So in honor of The Good Dinosaur coming out soon-ish, I thought why not go through every Pixar film to date. Also, I'm just gonna say it now, spoiler alert for all the films ahead. If there's a movie that you haven't seen that you don't want to hear spoilers for, I've put the times of the different films in the description so you can just go down there. Alright then, let's get to it.
You got a friend in me.
So this was the film that really started it all, the first Pixar film, and the first fully CGI film, and it's thanks to this movie being a success that animation is the way it is today. Let's talk specifics. This film, when you break it down, is more or less a buddy road movie, with a new spin on it, and it's one of the best ones out there. It's a really heartfelt story. Most of us played with toys growing up, so most everyone is going to relate to this film on some level. The voice talent behind it is also pretty stellar. Tom Hanks and Tim Allen make a really funny duo.
I've set my laser from stun to kill.
Ah, great. Yeah, and if anyone attacks us, we can blink them to death.
The animation also looks really good for 1995, and making a CG film about toys was a pretty great idea, since toys have more simple designs and are easier to animate. The humans, yeah, they don't look as great. It has a lot of colorful and funny side characters, and that's another thing. This film is really funny. A lot of that comes from Buzz and his storyline, how he thinks he's an actual space ranger in this world.
T-O-Y. Toy.
Excuse me, I think the word you're searching for is Space Ranger.
That scene where he discovers he isn't real through a commercial is awesome. I'll say this, Sid is a pretty terrifying villain, mainly because 1995 computers made him look terrifying. This has so many memorable things in it. Those little green aliens and the claw. You've Got a Friend in Me, one of my favorite songs, and To Infinity and Beyond. Look, it's an excellent film, but I don't think it's Pixar's best like a lot of people do. Maybe that's because I didn't grow up on this film like I did with The Incredibles and Monsters, Inc. I saw this for the first time when I was like 8, and at that point I was like, alright, it's pretty great, but it's not hitting me on that emotional, nostalgic level because I didn't grow up with it. It's still an amazing movie, but putting against what Pixar did after, I wouldn't say it's the best. However, at the end of the day, it gets a 9.7 out of 10 from me.
You got a friend in me.
So then Pixar had to rush to make a new film after a surprise mega hit, which is of course a hard thing to do. So they released A Bug's Life, only a few months after the release of Ants. And is this the awesome follow-up to the classic Toy Story? Well, let's talk about it. Firstly, what I like. For one, the animation is really cool. Again, especially for back then, the visuals are awesome. The different bugs are really interesting as well, with their colorful designs. And speaking of which, the circus bugs are amazing. Easily the best part of the film. They all have funny personalities and plot lines, and they elevated this film from where it was to start. This film also has more than a few pretty funny moments, and this is something I'll talk about a lot because Pixar's really good at it. It creates a really interesting world. Like, I'd like to see more of this bug world. It seems interesting. The villains are also great, specifically Kevin Spacey as Hopper. His design is frightening, his voice is commanding, awesome villain. And a villain that gets a pretty messed up death. That's another thing I like about this movie and Pixar in general. Other kids' films, for some reason, don't use the words kill and death. Like, I guess they assume it's too scary for the kids. Hopper just straight up tells this guy something like, if you weren't my brother, I'd kill you. Also, I'm pretty sure he brutally murders this grasshopper by crushing it to death with nuts. On the negative side, this is a story that we've seen 1,000 times before, so it is a bit predictable. Most of the characters, besides the circus bugs as well, nothing really new here. It also feels like this movie is more geared towards kids in a lot of parts, and in the end it all amounts to a film that's good, but not great. Still though, another enjoyable Pixar film, and hey, it was 1998, Pixar was still finding their footing, so I gotta forgive some things. In the end, I'll give A Bug's Life an 8.7 out of 10.
You got a friend in me.
So because people liked A Bug's Life, but it didn't do the business Pixar was hoping, they went back to their roots and came out with Toy Story 2. And making a sequel to a film everyone loves is really hard, and has only worked a few times. But in my opinion, Toy Story 2 is actually better than Toy Story 1. Hold up, put your pitchforks down, let me explain. Toy Story 2 really does what a sequel should do. It doesn't rehash everything from the first film, but rather puts the characters in new environments and introduces them to new characters and situations. And it's executed really well. First up, this film is pretty exciting. There are quite a few action scenes, including the opening, that are actually pretty cool. Like the first film, it's also really funny. I'd say actually more so than the first film. Like I said, they also introduced new characters in this. The main ones being Jesse, Bullseye, and the Prospector. And all three of them are fun characters. It was interesting to see a look into Woody's background. There's also a message introduced that toys, or really anything, won't last forever. And that's a good and sort of heavy message to put on this movie. The When She Loved Me flashback scene with Jesse, I wasn't sobbing or anything, but yeah, it's a really touching scene. The whole part when they go into the toy store is probably my favorite part of the film. Buzz finds that hall full of Buzz Lightyears, and Barbie shows up, which was kind of hilarious. My only real complaint, and this is more of a nitpick, but it was kind of obvious to me that the Prospector was going to be the bad guy. It's meant as a sort of big-ish reveal, but I have to say I saw it coming. Other than that though, I can't think of anything else I didn't like. This is a really fun, feel-good family movie with great new and returning characters, and it'll leave you with a smile on your face when you're done with it. I'm gonna give it a 9.8 out of 10.
You got a friend in me.
So after Toy Story 2 succeeded, Pixar went back to trying new original ideas, and this time, it really worked. So in 2001, they put out Monsters, Inc., their best film at that time, in my opinion. This is the sort of Toy Story movie for me. Well, this and one other. This is the film that I grew up with, the one I've loved pretty much all my life, and even looking back now, it's still fantastic. There's just so much that works in this. For one, the characters and voice acting. The casting is perfect. Mike and Sully have great chemistry, and all of the monsters have really interesting designs. Also, Steve Buscemi as this lizard monster was a stroke of genius. This also has one of the most interesting Pixar worlds. Scaring children is actually a profession in this monster world, and it helps power the city. This also has one of my favorite movie soundtracks. It's just so catchy and jazzy, and it fits the movie. Boo is also one of the most adorable kids in movies. Some people say she's annoying. I don't get that. This film also has that trademark Pixar emotional moment when at the end Sully has to say goodbye to Boo.
Kitty has to go.
And then she opens the door expecting to see him, but no one's there. Call me sappy if you want, but that just made me tear up. Any negatives for this film? Actually, no. I genuinely can't think of something that I didn't like. It's fast-paced and never uninteresting. It's very creative, it's very funny. It's another movie that both adults and kids can sit through. So yeah, I'm happy to give Monsters, Inc. a 10 out of 10.
You got a friend in me.
So Pixar had been doing well in the past box office wise, with each film grossing more than the last. But this is where they hit it big. Nearly $1 billion. And oddly enough, I didn't see this in theaters. In fact, I didn't watch it for a few years. But eventually I was wondering what all the hype was about, so I sat down and watched it, and yeah, it deserved nearly $1 billion. This movie is fantastic. It is everything a movie like this needs. Firstly, the animation is spectacular. Everything and everyone looks beautiful. The characters and cast are also good. Albert Brooks is great as Marlin, Willem Dafoe is great as this guy, and Ellen is great as Dory. Like I've said before, her character could have been so obnoxious and annoying, but she was used just enough that she never did become obnoxious or annoying. I wouldn't say she stole the whole movie, but a lot of the film's funniest moments did come from her. All the characters Marlin and Dory encounter, from the shark to the school fish to the sea turtles, all of them are interesting and memorable. The film is on the whole a lot of fun, but it also has some sad and emotional moments. Pixar literally just opens with their intense tearjerker scene. As the negatives go, there are some things you kinda do see coming. Like for example, the message of the film is apparent from the very start, and the sequence of events, I could more or less tell where they were gonna go. With this film and another one we'll get to later, it sets it up as a movie where the main characters are going to move from place to place to showcase some cool characters and environments. I didn't enjoy the movie less because of it, but you do know relatively which direction the movie's going in. But in the end, this is another standout Pixar film. A road trip movie with an odd pair underwater. How can you go wrong? Actually, that could go wrong in a lot of ways, but point is, it didn't here. And I'm going to give Finding Nemo a 9.8 out of 10.
You got a friend in me.
So, yeah, this is the best of the best. This is pretty much as good as animated films can get. In fact, it's as good as superhero films can get. In fact, one could argue, and I will, that this is one of the best movies of all time. As someone who's a fan of action, animation, superheroes, and just good filmmaking in general, this film is awesome. So let's talk about how awesome it is. For one, the plot, setting, and characters. The plot is interesting and smart. It starts in what looks like the 1950s, and it seems to go to the future somehow. There's this whole thing about superheroes having to retire, and then a lot of them go missing. It's got a message about letting go of the past and trying to relive the glory days. The characters are also awesome. The whole family aspect of it was good and added that much more relatability to the film, since most of us with a family have had some of these problems. The voice cast is good. Sam Jackson as Frozone stood out to me, but Brad Bird as Edna Mode was one of the highlights of the film. Also, Syndrome is probably the best Pixar villain we've seen so far. By the way, forgot to mention, this is directed by Brad Bird, who is my personal favorite director, and this is him at the height of his abilities. This is also an action movie, and the action is fantastic. The first fight with the Omnidroid, the plane scene, the finale, the jungle fight. This also has one of my favorite scores in movie history. Again, just listen to this. It's like James Bond and Mission Impossible had a baby. This is one of the more adult Pixar films, which is great. Kids' movies don't have to have blood and gore and all that, but having stuff like this is fine. A lot of guard henchman guys in this just get brutally murdered, blown up in their own little spinning UFO type things. There's a lot of violence. There are little things that I didn't notice until I grew up a bit.
Every time they run, you take a shot.
The only negative for this film is that they borrow some powers from the Fantastic Four. Like, we've got the super strong guy, the girl who can become invisible and create force fields, stretchy one, the one that lights on fire, and then there's the Flash. But this is by far the best version of the Fantastic Four I've ever seen, so instead I gotta give credit to that. So as if you couldn't tell already, The Incredibles easily gets a 10 out of 10.
You got a friend in me.
So there are a lot of people who like Cars, and there are a lot of people who hate Cars. And I personally don't love it, but I wouldn't say it's a bad movie. Let's talk specifics. First off, what I like. On the whole, it's an entertaining movie. It's lighthearted, it's fast-paced. There wasn't a part of it where I was falling asleep. The cast is also solid. Owen Wilson was good as Lightning McQueen, and it wasn't too distracting for the most part. Michael Keaton was also pretty cool as the villain. The animation still looks great, and the race scenes are actually pretty awesome. The car puns at first were kind of funny. The car versions of Jay Leno and some other celebrities did make me smile. And maybe I'm a sucker for happy endings, but I like the ending. I thought it was pretty nice and heartfelt. Now for the negatives. For one, it has a lot of cliches in it, and it's predictable. It's a story we've all seen a million times. Arrogant guy does something bad and needs to get redemption, and eventually becomes a better person, and you pretty much know how it's gonna play out. I said that some of the jokes made me chuckle. A lot of the jokes also didn't land for me. This is one of the few Pixar films that's aiming more for kids, which is fine for kids movies to do, but Pixar's built on these movies that everyone can enjoy. This even had John Lasseter behind it, the director of Toy Story. Also, I have to say, remember how I said Dory could have gotten obnoxious but never did? Well, Mater, he isn't the worst thing ever, but he did sort of get a bit annoying at some points. Most of the time he was fine, but sometimes I was just like, Mater, can you go away now? Can we spend more time with Lightning McQueen and Paul Newman? But hey, at least he isn't the main character, right? Also, the message is a good message, but it is a bit blatant. Inside Out did it perfectly, showing a unique message without telling the audience directly. In this movie, I think someone actually says the line, there's a whole lot more to racing than just winning. Good message, but could have been a bit more subtle. But hey, in the end, is this a bad film? No. It is, however, not without its flaws, and it's the first Pixar film that I can think of where it had a long list of negatives. But still a fun, enjoyable ride that gets an 8.3 out of 10 from me.
You got a friend in me.
So Cars was definitely a little bit of a step back for Pixar, so they got Brad Bird again. And I just have to say, good move, Pixar. With him came Ratatouille. Now this is a movie that I wasn't really sure about when going into it, because I really don't like rats. But what do you know? This film succeeds in making me like a main protagonist who's a rat, and it also succeeds on most other fronts. If it's possible for a film to be delicious, then yeah, this movie totally is. This will make you hungry, guaranteed. It also creates a really great atmosphere with the music and Paris and all that. And on that note, the visuals in this film are pretty spectacular. Just these landscape shots of Paris alone look beautiful. As far as the cast and characters go, Patton Oswalt is a great choice for the main lead, and the rest of the characters, for the most part, are really awesome. All these chefs have really interesting backstories and motives, which makes me kind of wish we'd seen more of them, but still, really fun. I also like Chef Skinner a lot. He made me laugh.
Welcome to hell.
Now I gotta talk about the critic in this film, who easily has one of the best designs in any Pixar movie. This guy is just weirdly creepy appearance-wise, and it doesn't help that his room is shaped like a coffin. Everyone said it by now, but I'll echo those thoughts. The critic's monologue at the end is spectacular. I personally don't consider myself a critic. I review the occasional movie I see, but this really hit home with me.
We risk very little, yet enjoy a position over those who offer up their work and their selves to our judgment. We thrive on negative criticism, which is fun to write and to read.
As far as what I didn't like, these are really just nitpicks. The romance is good, but it isn't the best ever. I also didn't love Remy's rat family. They were okay, but when they came back halfway through the movie, I was a bit annoyed. And this is really nitpicky, but I don't think you can actually control someone's arms by pulling their hair. To be fair, I've never tried it. And also, this is a film about a rat who cooks gourmet food. At the end of the day, Brad Bird delivers again with an inspirational movie about following your dreams, which happens to also be really funny and full of stunning animation. It gets a 9.7 out of 10 for me.
You got a friend in me.
So now we have a vaguely controversial movie as far as what people think of it. Some people really love WALL-E, and some people think WALL-E is boring and uninteresting. But personally, I really enjoyed it. I gotta start out with the first, let's say, 45 minutes or so, where there's pretty much no dialogue, and it's just this one robot running around doing his thing, and eventually meeting this other robot. It's really masterfully done, with the music and the body language of these robots as the only real thing to keep us along. On that note, the romance is also pretty great, especially for characters who can only say a few words each. Also, I know I've praised all these films for their visuals and animation and all that, but just look at this. The film also has a good cautionary tale about the future. Once WALL-E and Eve get onto the Axiom, the film has a lot of cool action and becomes really exciting. There are also a lot of really funny parts, and it has a pretty emotional, nice ending. On the negative side, it's a good film all the way, but it did change a bit after the 45-minute mark. Both halves are great by themselves, but it did seem a little bit like they altered it after WALL-E and Eve left Earth. How it starts off with no dialogue and everything looks very cool, and it almost feels like one of those Pixar short films, and then we're in space with these super fat humans, and these other robots and this evil AI. I enjoyed the second half, don't get me wrong, but it did feel a tiny bit like it was from a different movie. Also, the movie's animation is pretty amazing, but everything looks so beautiful and almost realistic that these over-the-top, extremely overweight humans took me out of it a bit. But hey, it didn't ruin the movie or anything. So all in all, WALL-E was a different step from what Pixar normally does, but I think it totally worked. It's a great love story, it's exciting, it's fun, and I'm gonna give it a 9.4 out of 10.
You got a friend in me.
So Pixar then decided to go back to Monsters Inc. and put the director from that onto a new project, this one called Up. And this was their second attempt at making a film with humans as the main characters, and their second success at making an amazing film. Everyone's talked about the opening 10 minutes, so I'll keep this brief, but yes, the opening 10 minutes will make you laugh and then cry pretty hard. It's like Pixar was saying, oh, you thought Finding Nemo's opening was bad? Well, boom, look at this. The characters in this are really good. Carl is likable, even though he's sort of a jerk sometimes. Russell is adorable. Doug is hilarious. And it's got a threatening villain. The story could have also really gone off the rails, but I personally thought it worked. It starts off pretty grounded. A couple can't have a kid. They grow old. One of them dies. But then it goes in this crazy new direction. And by the end, there are giant colorful birds and talking dogs flying little airplanes. But like I said, it totally works. The film also has some deeper moments besides just the opening. And again, it's great for people of all ages. It has a happy ending. It's got some cool action scenes. And like a good Pixar movie should, it has an amazing score that really fits the movie. I can't really say much bad about this film. The only thing I can really think of is that the film does peak in the first 10 minutes, but it's not like the first 10 minutes were amazing and the rest is garbage. The first 10 minutes are here, and the rest of the film is here. You feel? So this is one of Pixar's finest. It's got something for everyone to enjoy, it'll make you cry, and it gets a 9.9 out of 10 from me.
You got a friend in me.
So here comes the big one, Toy Story 3, over $1 billion, Best Picture nomination. Now, do I think Toy Story 3 is a good movie? Yes, it's pretty great. Do I also think it's a bit overrated? Yeah, I do. And before you dislike and unsubscribe, hear me out on this. For one, what I liked. Well, it was cool to see all these characters back together after so long, and because this came out over a decade after Toy Story 2, the CGI and graphics had gotten a lot better. The film also shows Andy having grown up and not liking playing with his toys anymore, which was an interesting direction to take it, and one that I wasn't sure Pixar would take. It could have been easy to just have him still be a kid, and the toys go off on a new adventure, but no, they switched it up a bit. The daycare was also a new angle for it, and I liked it. Highlight of the film for me at least was totally Michael Keaton as Ken. Every time he was there, he made me laugh.
Have we ever met?
I would have remembered. Love your leg warmers.
Nice ass cut.
The movie also has a lot of other humor. Spanish Buzz Lightyear and Mr. Tortilla Head made me laugh pretty hard. The daycare toys After Dark, I also have to mention, scared the living hell out of me when I saw this in the theaters. Mainly this monkey. Then there's the ending. First, where they're all in the trash compactor, which I'll admit was pretty emotional. Then there was the actual ending, where Andy gives away his toys. And yeah, it's a fantastic ending. But I have to say, I didn't cry. I'm gonna sound like an emotionless jerk, considering I cried in Up and teared up in Monsters Inc. and Finding Nemo. But I'm sorry. It's an amazing and really well done scene. I just didn't cry. Now for what's probably gonna get the most hate in this video, what I did not like. There are two main things, but before I get to those, just some small points. Lotso, like the prospector from the last film, I could tell he was gonna be the bad guy. In that, a lot of the plot points are also a bit predictable. Also, I can't really hold this against the movie, but Best Picture nomination? Now for my two big complaints. The first one is that it borrows a lot from Toy Story 2. From the characters, to the plot, to the villain, to just a lot of things that I thought were kind of a rehash. And the other thing is that this, to me at least, rides on a lot of nostalgia, which is fine. But like I said, I'm in the minority of not having grown up with Toy Story. So while everyone else saw Toy Story when they were little, and then 15 years later watched their childhood on the big screen again, I personally did not have that previous Toy Story connection. If they did this with, say, The Incredibles 2, then yeah, I'm gonna cry and love it. But a lot of these moments didn't really get to me on the level that they were supposed to, because I hadn't been invested in these characters since I was a little kid. But in the end, Toy Story 3 is not bad by any means. It's really good and enjoyable, and I get why everyone loves it, but I don't think it's flawless. In the end, this all still amounts to a 9.3 out of 10.
You got a friend in me.
So when Cars 2 came out, I was kinda confused. Of all their films, Pixar made a sequel to Cars. Considering how good Pixar is at setting up movie worlds, that just sorta baffled me. What about The Incredibles 2 or Finding Nemo 2? I'd even take WALL-E 2, because there's so much you can do in that universe. While Pixar seems to have learned their lesson now, back in 2011, nope, it was Cars 2. But hey, regardless of all that, let's talk about what I liked. For one, it isn't that boring. Again, it is mildly entertaining. There were also 2 or 3 parts that made me laugh. Some action is cool, the finale specifically is sort of exciting, and the visuals are still great. And that's pretty much it. Now for what does not work in this. 1. This is a spy movie. Because reasons. I'd love to watch a Pixar spy film, but why with cars? At the point where I'm watching a tow truck shooting machine guns and paragliding, I just sit back and ask myself, what am I even watching right now? Secondly, speaking of that tow truck, Mater is the main character of this movie. He was fine in the first film because he was on the side. Look, some people might like it, but Mater's kind of humor I just don't find very funny. And subsequently, he got pretty annoying. Now the plot of this film is all over the place, and oddly enough, it's actually really confusing. Also, the cast is good, but the big new addition, Michael Caine, I never forgot I was watching Michael Caine. If a movie is good, you're supposed to get sucked into the world and think you're watching this character go on his or her adventure. But in this, whenever this guy was on, all I could imagine was Michael Caine sitting in a little recording booth. The film also has a lot of really stupid moments, and it's cheesy in a lot of parts. This is again way more for kids than everyone of all ages. This is once again directed by John Lasseter, pretty much the biggest dude at Pixar. And this is so far from Pixar quality. This isn't just a bad Pixar movie, it's a bad movie. It's fun for kids, but if you do have kids, don't show them this when I've already talked about 11 animated films that are much better. And also, I just want to say, Cars 3, I don't understand why Pixar would do this. Well, correction, I do understand. Pixar does like a little something called truckloads of money, but from a creative standpoint, it doesn't make any sense. So Cars 2 is the first bad movie from Pixar. This is the bottom of the barrel for Pixar movies, but it isn't the worst thing to ever exist. There are some things to enjoy here, especially if you're a bit younger, but I have to give it a 4.9 out of 10.
You got a friend in me.
So after 2 sequels, one of which went really well, and one of which went, yeah, Pixar decided to go back to original films, and that probably wasn't such a bad idea. So then Brave came out in 2012, and it was an interesting movie because the trailers didn't show anything besides bears and Scotland and magic, so everyone went into this intrigued, and most people came out of it disappointed. But since I didn't have super high expectations going in, I was satisfied. Is it Pixar quality? I wouldn't say so, but we'll get to that in a bit. Is it a good movie and a clear step up from Cars 2? Definitely. Let's talk good things. Well, this film is different from what Pixar had done before, in terms of atmosphere, style, character designs, that sort of stuff. And I like it when people try different things. The Scottish setting was cool, with the new music and landscape. The characters, mostly, were also pretty good. The king was pretty funny, and the relationship between Merida and her mom was well done and convincing enough. Again, of course, the animation is spectacular. There's also this weird magic element that's introduced, and while it doesn't really go anywhere, it was at least interesting. Also, I have to say, the movie opens pretty strong. The first half hour of this film was really solid, and so is the last half hour. The end climax was awesome. That scene with Mordu in the temple thing was pretty intense. Overall, at least for Pixar, this is more of a unique film. Now for what I didn't like. For one, the movie is a bit forgettable. When I walked out of it, by the next day, I really didn't remember a lot about it. And while the whole thing is entertaining, it does slow down a bit in the middle. A lot of parts in the film I'd felt like I'd seen before in other movies. There was also some comic relief that I didn't think was that funny. But overall, my biggest complaint with this film is kind of unfair. And that is that it's Pixar. And this just isn't as good as other Pixar films. Which is something I don't want to hold against this movie, but I kinda have to. Because Pixar's made such fantastic films and set the bar so impossibly high that when something doesn't live up to it, people are disappointed. However, at the end of the day, it's a very enjoyable movie. If you just skip the Pixar logo at the start, then you'll probably enjoy it a lot more. While this isn't anything super special in the animation world, it's still a good time, and I'll give it an 8 out of 10.
You got a friend in me.
So after Brave got mixed to positive reviews, Pixar went back yet again to sequels, or rather prequels, and so Monsters University came to be. And personally, I think this is sort of an underrated movie. Not in terms of money, it made all of the money. I mean in terms of how many people like it. Sure, it's certified fresh on Rotten Tomatoes, but I know a lot of people who genuinely hate this movie, which I just don't get. Is it as good as Monsters Inc? No. Most movies aren't. But it's still a lot of fun, and it was definitely a step in the right direction for Pixar. For one, Monsters Inc set up some great characters, and they're still great in this. It's cool to see characters that you like again, and seeing their beginnings is a lot of fun too. The movie is also pretty funny, and a lot of that comes from the new characters added, who I thought were good new additions. The film focuses on Mike and Sully going through these challenges, and like I'll talk about more in my best and worst of Harry Potter coming out in a few weeks, I really like seeing characters going through a series of harder and harder trials and challenges. I don't know why, I just do. Also, the last half hour or so is really solid, and gets a lot closer to the quality of Monsters Inc. For what doesn't work, like I said, this doesn't hit the same emotional beats as the first film. You probably won't be crying at any point in this. It does also follow a pretty familiar formula that other movies have used before. But overall, this is Pixar getting their footing back, and riling up for an epic new slate of films. Monsters U is a lot of fun, it's colorful, kids will probably like it more than adults, but adults will still really enjoy it, and I'm gonna give it an 8.9 out of 10.
You got a friend in me.
And now we've finally arrived at Inside Out, a film that I've already talked about a bunch, but let's talk about it again. This was the big return for Pixar. They brought back Pete Docter from Monsters Inc. and Up, and he brought his A-game to this. The film, just to sum it up quickly, is on the whole really funny, really smart, and really enjoyable. I've said that Pixar's casting choices in the past were good, but this film just nails it. Louis Black as Anger is genius. And speaking of genius, this might be the most interesting concept for a Pixar movie. And if it's not the most interesting concept, it's at least the most interesting execution of a concept. It's just so creative, and I really like creativity in movies. How imagination is like an amusement park, and dreams are like movies made in this Hollywood-like place. The film will also make you cry, or at the very least tear up. The message is also fantastic, and really unique, and it's shown perfectly. That's what I meant when I was talking about Cars earlier. This doesn't just tell you, hey, sometimes it's good to be sad. This movie just shows it through visuals, and I love that. As far as the negatives, like Finding Nemo, you sort of know how it's gonna go. Island to island, seeing different things along the way, but you are still on board for the ride. So yeah, everyone's probably seen this film by now, but as if it needs to be said, it's pretty awesome. I've now seen it 2 times, and I actually enjoyed it more the second time. I'll give it a 9.5 out of 10. So now, instead of just doing my usual and saying which is the best and which is the worst, I'm gonna rank all 15 of these movies from worst to best. Also, some of my ratings might conflict with this ranking, but oh well. Anyway, let's get to it. Cars 2, Brave, A Bug's Life, Cars, Monsters University, Toy Story 3, Toy Story, Toy Story 2, WALL-E, Inside Out, Ratatouille, Finding Nemo, Up, Monsters Inc., and number 1 is The Incredibles. So those are my thoughts on the Pixar film. What is your favorite and least favorite? Or rank them from best to worst in the comments. While you're at it, like this video, check out my Instagram at BHL_Hudson, and subscribe for more videos like the one you just watched. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.